This time we have Daniela here, which is representing a different strand of the retail system in Germany especially. She is representing and owning a trade agency based in Düsseldorf or in the environment of Düsseldorf. And this gives us the opportunity to look at, in this case, really the German retail sector. And this might be of interest for international labels that see Germany, purely because of its numbers, as an interesting destination market, target market. But obviously, like in all countries, there are certain conditions and certain structures one should know about. Daniela, you've been in the trade for a few years, and you've been representing a number of labels. Who are you representing at the moment?
At the moment, our agency take care of Nakapiri, Retour, Guess, Pantoffola shoes, Sifoli beachwear, European culture. So a completely mix between smaller brands and international based brands. And so it's interesting for us to work with different structures, but it's also interesting for the companies because in this case also our customers are coming from different structures. So we are able to take care over the needs from a big player like Zalando, but also small individual boutiques, Domino in Grünwald or whatever. So I think it's for both sides very interesting.
Yes, and you are working across kind of different product ranges as well. It's it's obviously children's is very important, but it's not only jeans. It's not only daily use, but it's swimwear. It's everything, so to speak.
Yeah. So you also have in summertime, because swimwear, especially Sifoli, Sandek is more high-level brand, it's more niche for our smaller customers, but especially with Sifoli coming from Australia, we have really a very interesting global market, from the sportswear stores to Engelhorn, Bräuninger, so really completely different structure.
For many companies, non-German companies, it's very important to highlight that Germany, especially because really of its history, is a very regionalized country. It used to be, and therefore you had a very regional sales structure. 20 years ago there would have been sales agencies spread across Germany, from Bavaria in the south up to Hamburg in the north, and these agencies would look after certain well-defined regions. Now, we still have, the remnants of the system, but it is changing a bit, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. It's like with the higher level brands like a Stone Island or whatever, you take care mostly of 2-3 countries. And when you have a more commercial brand, you need not anymore 6 or 7 agencies in Germany based. It's enough mostly 2 or 3. It's completely different because also the customer structure has changed.
Let's stick with the sales agent or trade agencies first. So is it now more common that, for instance, an agency that used to look only, let's stick with the example Bavaria, that used to look only after Bavaria is now looking after Bavaria and possibly Austria and possibly the area around Stuttgart? Is that the reality?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And now with regard to your customers you mentioned, i.e. the shops, that go to you and that make orders, I guess the number of shops or your customers has changed, and the structure of shops as well. In how far is the number of shops generally down or up or stable? Have smaller shops come into being recently? How would you describe the picture? We can,
I think the stores, the quantity of stores are really going down, especially from the specialized kids stores. But the structure is also changing, so it's coming up new kind of stores, like concept stores, whatever you mean for that. So,
shall we say a concept store is a store that has a core product range? In the case of children, it's really children's garments, etc. But around this core product offering, there's possibly buggies or bedwear or interior products or accessories. So to have a kind of a cycle of products which might be of interest to the consumer who enters the shop.
Yeah.
Okay, so these kind of concept shops, you see some coming up?
Coming up, absolutely. But in this case, I think our region is still a little bit in sleep. So when you look over across the border to Belgium, to the Netherlands, also to Denmark, you definitely see completely different kind of stores. They are, in my opinion, around 2-3 years in front of us.
Oh, that's interesting. So you just mentioned your region, so this we are talking North Rhine-Westphalia, is that correct?
No, I especially I speak for Germany.
For all of Germany, okay.
Also, Austria is a little bit split, so in Vienna you have some trendy stores as well, but on the more or less countryside, they are more like Germany.
In Germany, you see a certain trend, correct me if I'm wrong, but that lots of shopping is done obviously online, but lots of shopping in stationary retail is happening in the big cities and in the regional cities. But that in smaller towns, which used to have shops, that is really going downhill.
Absolutely.
So
A countryside is really going down.
So you have regional centers, which like Regensburg, for instance, which can be quite, interesting hubs of activity, so to speak. But then, outside, really in the countryside.
Yeah. What you had perhaps 5 years ago, you have around Nuremberg 3-4 kids shops.
Yes.
Circle 10 kilometers around, not in the city center directly.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just because you mentioned something earlier, which I find is interesting. Target groups are changing. Our target group here, are the children, and their mothers, obviously, and there's a certain age bracket which is, finding its own feet, so to speak. We've called them the in-betweeners, which no English person would say, but let's stick with the term in-betweeners. So let's say, this age group between 11 and 13 or so, which feels uncomfortable going with a mother shopping, but you see there certain opportunities. Is that something you would find of interest for the manufacturers?
It could be, definitely, because when you look to Denmark, they established in the last 5 years this kind of teeny stores.
Yes.
And so also when I speak with Bräuninger in Stuttgart yesterday, they are looking how can we change a little bit our kids' floor to make it interesting for each age range, because as you said, a boy with 11 don't want to go nearby baby clothes to buy any cool t-shirt or whatever. So they all think about how can we handle it to get this kind of consumers still in the shop.
That's really interesting, and I think that's a subject matter which is being picked up as we speak, editorially and from manufacturers as well. Coming back to, because I think that really is of interest for the audience, you are basically, the link between, let's say, foreign companies and the German retail market. So you offer a certain service which will facilitate work for, let's say, a company that is based in Italy and that would like to offer its wares in Germany. What would your advice be for a company that is not yet present in Germany or Austria, for that matter? How should they analyze the market? How should they proceed? What would be step one? What should be step two? What's your kind of, looking back at, at your experience, and, you've been dealing with, Dutch companies and other international companies. So you know the market quite well. How would you advise them to go forward?
Yeah, they should analyze for themselves first what could be the consumer range. The German market is completely different in price sensitivity instead of Italy or France or whatever. And also I think you have to analyze which kind of stores could be my customer. And then, because mostly they only see a big country, Germany, you have so many inhabitants and you can sell so much. But when we don't have the need for this kind of products, it will not happen. And I think that is often the biggest mistake they are doing. We start in Germany and don't think about how. And you have to be present on the, not each regional fair, but minimum in Munich and perhaps also in Hamburg, or now Berlin is coming up with a new structure from fairs. So,
yes.
Yeah. And then you really have to analyze and to see, is that possible for us? Is that enough for us when we can have perhaps in the first step only 20 customers with not huge volumes?
Yes. That's very interesting. Perhaps we just we have to repeat that in Germany, because it's so regionalized, you have a number of regional trade fairs, which directly translated we would call order platforms. So agents would present the products of their labels, and shop owners would come to these regional trade fairs in Munich and near Frankfurt, in Hamburg, in Berlin, and place their orders there. There's not a big national trade fair like Pitti in Italy. So the regional aspect is very important. They should analyze very clearly whether there's a need for their product in the price range they need in order to recoup their cost and achieve a certain margin. And would you help as an agency establish contact to e-commerce players as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also that companies has really asked by themselves, are they able to give all this kind of information these customers need? Because a request, when you see the delivery needs from a Zalando or 1000 Kinder or whatever, is completely different to a small boutique.
Yes.
So often the companies had no idea what they have to deliver, not only from the product side, also
but
from
in terms
the
of quantities and
from the office side.
Yes. Many companies, obviously try to achieve a lot and sell a lot. But you're saying, let's start slowly and find our niche and and then develop these sales. Does it make sense to really focus in terms of products as well, so that you say, at the beginning, this could be for a small target group, but it could be, therefore it's very sustainable, very organic in terms of the product, the fabrics used, but still chic and modern and colorful. Is that a good approach to take?
Yeah, especially for smaller companies, I think it would be the right way, because then you could build up a serious business. Or you can also realize perhaps after 3-4 seasons, okay, no, the German market is not the market where it's a big need for my product. And so you don't risk also too much. But bigger companies, sure, they want to go directly big.
Yes, certainly. But they have different means at their disposal, so they can obviously plan differently.
But when we speak about more or less smaller or medium companies, they are looking for a base in Germany. I would prefer to do it step by step, slowly and solid and serious. Then you can really build up when everything is in line, so you can also react on the needs much easier.
Yes. Last question, because time is flying. How long would you estimate would it take for a new company to gain entry in the German market? What would you suggest, or what would you advise? Companies. Let's look at 2 or 3 years. Take your time, but then at least it's solid. What's your experience?
I think you should plan minimum 2 years, so you plan 4 seasons.
Yes.
And definitely make together a plan. Okay, what is a need instead of fairs? Or is it enough to present it in the showrooms, because we are more or less on the high level, so we don't have to go to a Wallau fair perhaps with a high level brand, and really make, okay, that is a plan for these 4 seasons. We want to do that, we want to reach that. We have the possibility after 1-2 seasons to correct a little bit perhaps the direction, but then we should have this kind of results, and then it makes sense to make the next step.
Daniela, thanks very much indeed. I think that's, it's the first time this Pitti Bimbo that we've talked about agencies and, this aspect of the market. Very interesting insight. Thank you so much.